Welcome to Sleepy Time Stories. Hello, my dear friends. Let's begin. Picture Manhattan in 1905. Now fill it with 500,000 Eastern European Jews crammed into 2 square miles. Adore sewage flowing in open gutters, horses collapsing dead in the street from overwork, tuberculosis killing 1 in 7 residents, and 14 people sleeping in rooms designed for 4. That's the Lower East Side, the most densely populated place in human history. More packed than Kolkata, more crowded than the worst slums of London, more compressed than anywhere humanity has ever tried to survive. A place where you could watch a child die of diphtheria in the morning and buy a hot quiche from a pushcart by evening. We're going back there tonight. We're going back there tonight. Not as tourists looking at the Tenement Museum or eating pastrami at Katz's. We're living it one day, one person. Everything they would have seen, smelled, heard, and survived. So I make these history stories, and honestly, I have no clue if anyone actually sleeps to them, or if you're all just weirdos who like hearing about sweatshop labor and child mortality rates. Either way, subscribe if you want. Get comfortable. Here we go. Your eyes open to darkness. For a moment, maybe half a second, you've forgotten where you are. Then it hits you. The smell. It's not just one smell. It's theirs. Sweat first. Not yours alone. 7 other people in this room. The Davidowitz family sharing the space. Mother, father, 4 children, grandmother, their bodies, your body. All of you leaking into the August heat. Then onions fried in chicken fat yesterday. The smell baked into the walls after years of cooking. The privy in the air shaft 3 floors down. Emptied maybe once a week when the landlord remembers someone's vomit from last night. The youngest of Widowitz child probably rotting garbage from the street below. And underneath it all, coal smoke and human waste, and the particular stench of poverty, including you. Welcome to 97 Orchard Street, Lower East Side, Manhattan, in August of 1905. You are lying on a straw mattress crawling with bedbugs in a room measuring exactly 10 feet by 11 feet on the 4th floor of a 5-story tenement above the Rosenbaum family's apartment on Orchard Street. The densest street in the densest neighborhood in America. Your name is Herschel Steinberg. You're 19 years old, and you arrived here 14 months ago from Bialystok with exactly $8.70 and a cousin's address that turned out to be wrong because he had moved 6 months earlier. Back home, everyone said America would turn you into a millionaire. They weren't wrong about the opportunity, they just forgot to mention you'd probably die before you got there. The church bells are already ringing. Not just one church, dozens. Most precious blood on Baxter Street is closest. Its bells crash through the August morning like hammers on anvils, calling Italian Catholics to early Mass. Those are the bells installed in 1892. By the way, you've probably heard of bell foundries. That's already a thing in 1905. The bells have been calling the faithful for centuries, but you're not Catholic, you're Jewish. And the shams, the synagogue, sexton is already in the street below, knocking his wooden hammer against shutters, calling men to shatters, morning prayers at the 8th Street show. You need to get up. Zman will have your hide if you're not at your machine when the shop opens, and Zman's shop opens early. 5:15 in summer, 5:45 in winter. The sun isn't even properly up yet, and already you can hear push cartwheels scraping cobblestones, vendors claiming their corners, the city lurching into motion. The city lurching into motion. The wooden floor is cold under your bare feet. No, wait. It's August. The floor is warm. Everything is warm. The whole tenement is an oven. Your fellow presser, a skinny kid named Mottel from somewhere in Galicia, is still snoring in the bed you share. Yeah, you share a bed. That's normal. Most greenhorns do. Privacy is a luxury nobody at your level can afford. At least Mottel doesn't piss the bed like the last guy. You splash some water on your face from the basin. The water is warm and brownish yellow. You got it yesterday from the pump on Hester Street, 4 blocks south, waiting in line for 40 minutes behind Mrs. Katz with her screaming baby and old Daviditz, who moves like molasses. Water doesn't come to your house through pipes, not for regular folks. You fetch it bucket by bucket from whatever source you can find. The city installed some street pumps back in the 1870s. Most of them pump contaminated water. You drink it anyway. Your clothes are where you left them. A rough cotton shirt gray with age and sweat stains. You bought it used off a pushcart on Hester Street for 20 cents. Trousers that were once black now faded to charcoal. Shiny at the knees and ass from wear. Suspenders with one broken buckle you tied with string. Boots with holes in both soles that need resolving. But the cobbler wants $125 you don't have. Your one bit of pride is your vest. It's dark brown wool. Nothing fancy, but it marks you as a skilled presser rather than a common laborer, shoveling coal or hauling ice. Appearances matter in this city. They matter more than almost anything. By the time you get downstairs, down 4 flights of stairs, so narrow you scrape both shoulders, past the Coins and the Levines and the Kaplanskys, and God knows who else. 12 families in this building alone. 12 families in this building alone. You step out onto Orchard Street into chaos. It's 5:45 in the morning, and Orchard Street is already a war zone. Pushcart vendors are claiming their spots, setting up their displays of pickles and herring, and used clothes. A woman is screaming at a man in Yiddish about blocking her cart. 2 children are fighting over something in the gutter. A horse just took a massive right in the middle of the street, and within seconds a man with a bucket and shovel is scooping it up. Horse manure sells for fertilizer. And when I say crowded, I need you to understand what that means in 1905 Lower East Side. This isn't modern crowded where you might have to weave between people on a busy sidewalk. This is chaos. This is survival. First, there are no sidewalks. Not really. Some of the nicer streets have raised stone paths along the sides, but on most streets, you're sharing space with everything. Pedestrians, horses, wagons loaded with bread or beer or bricks, carriages carrying uptown people, slumming it downtown, pushcarts stacked 8 feet high with everything imaginable, street vendors with baskets, beggars holding out trembling hands, dogs eating garbage, pigs, yes, pigs. People keep pigs in the Lower East Side. They roam the streets, eating refuse. It's actually useful. The pigs, I mean, they're the closest thing to a sanitation system in some neighborhoods. The noise is incredible. Vendors shouting their wares. Pickles. Sour pickles. Herring. Fresh herring from the barrel. Apples. 3 for 2 cents. Rags. I buy rags. Everyone is yelling because everyone else is yelling. And if you don't yell, nobody hears you. Add to that the clatter of iron wheels on cobblestones, the screaming of children, the arguments in 6 different languages, the barking of dogs, the cop of horse hooves, and the constant murmur of 500,000 conversations happening simultaneously in a space the size of a college campus. You've learned to navigate it mostly. The key is to never stop moving and never make eye contact with anyone who looks like they want something from you. Because everyone in New York wants something. Like right now, a woman with a basket is approaching you. She's probably selling apples. Apples come in from New Jersey farms and there's good money selling them on the street. But then again, there's also good money in distracting some greenhorn while their partner lifts his wallet from behind. You don't have a wallet to lift. Everything you own, $216, is hidden in your mattress back at 97 Orchard. So, you just shake your head and keep walking. The woman moves on to her next target. Zulman's shop is on Lello Street, 2 blocks west. You walk quickly, dodging horse shit and puddles of mysterious liquid and a dead cat that's been there for 3 days. When you arrive at 143 Lello Street, Zulman Katz is already at his cutting table in the coat shop. The shop is actually just the front room of a ground floor tenement apartment. Zulman pays $9 a month for this space, which is expensive. But Lello Street is where contractors come looking for piecework. He's a wiry man, maybe 45, with a beard going white and hands that never stop moving. Those hands can cut a pattern from a bolt of wool without measuring, just by eyeballing the proportions, and be accurate to within a 4-in. He's taught you about half of what he knows. And already your head is swimming with information about how to press a lapel without scorching the fabric, and which contractors pay on time, and which ones will claim substandard work. Just to dock your pay. You're late. he says without looking up. You're not late. You can see the clock on the wall. 5:53. The shop doesn't open until 6. He says this every morning. You've learned not to argue. The shop is small by New York standards, maybe 14 feet wide and 18 feet deep. The front opens directly onto Lello Street, with 2 large windows that let in morning light. In winter, those windows let in cold that turns your fingers blue. In August, they let in heat and flies and tea, a smell of horse piss. Behind that, 3 cutting tables, 4 sewing machines, 2 singers, 1 Wheeler and Wilson, 1 piece of garbage that breaks every other day, 1 pressing station with a coal-fired iron that weighs 12 pounds and burns at temperatures that can see a skin off bone. That's your station. Along the walls, bolts of fabric stacked to the ceiling. Along the walls, bolts of fabric stacked to the ceiling. Black wool for men's coats, grey wool for trousers, brown cotton for linings. Thread in 20 colors, buttons by the gross, chalk and shears, and measuring tape and all the small tools of the trade. It's not glamorous, but it's honest trade. And Lello Street is the place to do it. You've been here 14 months, but the scale of this street still amazes you. Back in Bialisto, your whole neighborhood probably had fewer people than this single street holds at any given moment. The name Lello comes from an old English lord who owned land here, back when Manhattan was still mostly farms. And that's exactly what it was, farmland. And that's exactly what it was, farmland. Now it's tenement, stacked 5 and 6 stories high. Each building crammed with shops and families and workshops, and God knows what else. When Zulman sends you out on your first errand of the day, delivering finished coats to a contractor on Division Street, you take the long way just to see it again. Every time it takes your breath away. The Brooklyn Bridge, completed in 1883, after 14 years of construction, that killed 20 workers. John Augustus Roebling designed it, but he died in 1869 from tetanus after his foot got crushed during the initial survey. His son, Washington Roebling, took over, spent years working in the underwater caissons, got the bend so bad he ended up paralyzed, and had to direct the rest of construction from his bedroom window across the river, while his wife Emily ran messages back and forth. The main span rises 276.5 feet above the East River at high tide, suspended by 4 cables each, containing 14 themed 680 m of wire. The towers are 278 feet tall, built from limestone and granite blocks, some of which weigh 4 tons each. They say Roebling designed it so you could see it from any point in Manhattan, south of Houston Street. You believe it? This morning, with the early sun hitting those massive Gothic arches, the whole thing glows like something from a cathedral. The light catches the granite, first turns it gold. Birds, pigeons, and sparrows circle the cables. Sometimes you see hawks up there, too, hunting. Even the wildlife in New York is brutal. You stand there for a moment just looking. A Jew from Bialisto staring at the greatest engineering achievement in America. Maybe the greatest bridge in the world. The man who built this was still working when you were a child. Your own grandfather might have heard about it in letters from cousins who came over earlier. It's that recent, that real. But you can't stand there forever. The coats won't deliver themselves. The contractor's warehouse is on Division Street, down where the Lower East Side starts bleeding into Chinatown. The address Selman gave you is 47 Division, squeezed between a noodle shop with Chinese characters on the sign and a store selling what looks like dried fish. The smell is incredible. Not bad exactly, just overwhelming. Ginger and soy sauce, and something fermented, mixing with the usual New York stench of garbage and horse shit. Inside the warehouse, a Chinese man with a long queue and embroidered vest is examining the coats you've brought. His name is Mr. Chen. He's one of Zulman's regular contractors. Takes finished goods, sells them to department stores uptown, makes the real money while people like Zulman scramble for scraps. Good work, Chen says in heavily accented English. He runs his fingers along a seam, checking the stitching. Your boss, he does quality, not like these other schmoo. Keks, yes, Chinese merchants on Division Street speak Yiddish in 1905. When everyone you do business with speaks Yiddish, you learn it. Same way Jewish merchants speak Italian on Mulberry Street, and everyone speaks broken English everywhere. Chen counts out payment, $4.50, and you tuck it carefully into your inside coat pocket where nobody can grab it without you noticing. On the way back, you pass the Eldridge Street Synagogue on the corner of Eldridge and Division, built in 1887, completed in 1887, designed by the Herter Brothers architectural firm. It cost $86,000, more money than every person on this block will earn in their combined lifetimes. The facade is Moorish Revival style, with horseshoe arches and terracotta decoration, and a massive rose window made from stained glass, imported from Belgium. The main sanctuary inside can hold 1,000 worshippers. The bimir, the raised platform where they read Torah, is carved from oak. The ark holding the scrolls is inlaid with mother of pearl. This synagogue is a statement. It says, "We're here. We're American. We built this and nobody can take it away." You've been inside exactly once for high holidays last year. You couldn't afford a ticket this year, but standing outside just looking at those towers, rising above the tenements, you feel something. Pride, maybe, or hope. The men who built this were immigrants, arrived with nothing, worked themselves nearly to death and built something that will stand for centuries. That could be you. That might actually be you. Back at the shop, Zulman is pleased with the delivery. He doesn't say so directly. That's not his way, but he nods when you hand over the 450 and mentions that Chen wants another order next week. Double the size, Zulman says. 20 coats instead of 10. We'll need to work nights. Nights means more pay. Maybe another $1 for the week. Enough to send something home to B. Ya listo, where your mother and sisters are probably starving. I can do nights, you say. Good. Now press these lapels. Mrs. Horowitz needs her husband's coat by 4 o'clock, and she'll tear my head off if it's not perfect. The pressing work is brutal. You light the coal in the iron's chamber. Wait for it to heat, to the point where a drop of spit dances on the surface before evaporating. Then you lift the 12B iron hot enough to sear flesh, and press it against damp fabric using just enough pressure to set the seam without scorching the wool. Too little pressure and the seam stays puckered. Too much, and you burn a hole straight through. The margin for error is about half a second. You've burned yourself maybe 30 times in 14 months. Small burns mostly, a few bad ones. Your hands are covered in scars, but you're getting better faster, more accurate. Zulman watches sometimes, doesn't say much, but you catch him nodding occasionally, which from Zulman might as well be a standing ovation. Around 11:30. Just as your stomach starts eating itself, breakfast was a piece of stale rye bread with nothing on it. Zulman calls you over. Go to Epstein's. Get thread. Black, gray, brown. 2 spools each. He hands you 35 cents. Epstein's shop is on Grand Street, 6 blocks south. Grand Street is where the suppliers cluster. Thread merchants, button dealers, fabric wholesalers. If you need something for garment work, you go to Grand Street. The streets between Lello and Grand are a madhouse. Esther Street Market is in full roar. Every push cart in Manhattan seems to be crammed into these 3 blocks. You can buy anything. Used shoes, fresh fish, old books in Hebrew and Yiddish, pots and pans, pickles from barrels, chickens killed on the spot, and the noise. Sweet God, the noise. Hundreds of vendors screaming over each other. Herring, fat hair, and pickles. Better than your mother made. Pants. Good pants. Almost no holes. You push through the crowd, get jabbed in the ribs by a woman carrying a basket of onions, step over a puddle of something you refuse to identify, dodge a runaway chicken. This is Tuesday morning. This is normal. Epstein's shop sits between a bakery, pumping out the smell of fresh challah, which makes your empty stomach scream, and a fish market where whole families are buying carp for dinner. Inside, Maya Epstein is behind his counter. He's maybe 60, with spectacles thick as bottles and fingers stained permanently black from handling thread. Zulman sent you, he asks in Yiddish. Yes, thread, black, gray, brown, 2 spools each. Epstein starts pulling spools from the shelves behind him. His shop is floor-to-ceiling thread, every color imaginable, organized by some system. Only Epstein understands. 30 cents, he says, dropping the spools on the counter. You know, perfectly well that thread costs maybe 22 cents wholesale. At 30 cents, you'd be losing money. Zulman gave you 35, which means he's expecting you to negotiate down to maybe 28, maybe 26 if you're good. Zulman said you'd do 25. You try. Epstein laughs. Actually laughs. Zorman always says that. He said that when your grandfather was buying thread 28 final, you pretend to think about it. Make a face like you're doing hard math. 27. And you throw in a spool of white for backing stitches. The white thread costs maybe 2 cents, but the total package at 27 plus 2 cents of white thread means you're at 29. Zulman wanted 28 max. You're 1 cent over. Epstein studies you. You can see him calculating. Is it worth losing a sale over a penny? Done, he says finally. But you tell Zolman his cheap ass is going to be the death of me. You hand over the coins, 27 cents, and Epstein wraps the spools in brown paper, tosses in the white thread like he's doing you a favor. Thank you, Mr. Epstein. Go before I change my mind. Outside, you allow yourself a small smile. You got the thread for 27 plus the free white spool. 8 cents under what Zulman gave you. You're keeping the 8 cents. That's how this works. The difference between what the boss gives you and what you actually pay is your commission, your reward for being good at negotiation. 8 cents buys a hot meal. Not a good meal, but a meal. You stop at a pushcart on the corner of Grand and Lello. The vendor is selling niches for 3 cents. The niches are mostly potato with maybe some onion fried in oil that's probably been used for 3 weeks. 3 cents for a niche leaves you 5 cents profit from the negotiation. The niche is hot and greasy and the best thing you've eaten in days. You eat it standing up, grease running down your chin, watching the street. A dead horse is being removed from the intersection. It collapsed this morning, probably from heat exhaustion. It's 95 degrees in August. In New York is hell, and now 3 men are trying to drag the carcass onto a wagon. The smell is unbelievable. Nobody seems particularly bothered. Dead horses are part of the landscape. The city has maybe 200,000 horses. They die constantly: heat, overwork, disease, accidents. Every day, dozens of horses die in Manhattan alone. The ones that die on busy streets get removed. The ones that die in alleys sometimes lie there for days. Welcome to 1905. You finish your Kenish, wipe your hands on your trousers, and head back to Zulman's with the thread and your 5 cents profit. Back at the shop, you hand Zulman the thread and the change. 7 cents, since you spent 3 on the niche. The man counts the coins, looks at the thread, nods. He knows you kept some. He probably knows exactly how much, but as long as you brought back the thread and didn't spend everything, he doesn't care. That's the system. Good, he says. Now finish those lapels, then start on the buttonholes with the schwo. Odds order, buttonholes are delicate work. You don't press buttonholes. The seamstresses sew them, but you press around them, setting the fabric so the holes lie flat and clean. It's tedious, it's exhausting, and it's absolutely critical because a poorly finished buttonhole can ruin an entire garment. You work through the afternoon, press and check, press and check, press and check. Your arms ache from lifting the 12 PB iron, your back aches from bending over the pressing board, your eyes burn from the heat and the cold smoke, but you're good at this. You've developed a rhythm, a flow. Your hands know what to do without your brain having to tell them. Around 3 o'clock, Mrs. Horowitz arrives for her husband's coat. She's large woman, maybe 50, with a wig that sits slightly crooked, and a voice that could shatter glass. Zolman presents the coat like he's giving her the crown jewels. She examines every seam, every button, every stitch, runs her fingers along the lapels you pressed this morning. Perfect, she says finally. Mule will look like a mensch. She pays $3.20, 20 cents, and leaves with the coat draped over her arm. Zulman counts the money, makes a note in his ledger, and locks it in the strong box under the floorboards. He did good work on those lapels, he says. From Zulman, this is like being knighted. The workday ends at 7. Zulman closes the shutters, locks the door, counts the day's receipts. It was a good day. Not great, but good. The Chen delivery, the Horowitz coat, A few smaller orders, maybe $20 total revenue minus materials, minus overhead. Zoom-in probably netted $8 or $9. You'll see maybe a 125 of that when payday comes on Saturday. Go home, Zeman says. Eat something. Tomorrow we start the Chen order. You're exhausted. Your arms feel like lead. Your back is screaming. But you made it through another day, and you've got 5 cents from the thread negotiation still in your pocket. On the way home, you pass a street vendor selling pretzels. Soft pretzels, still warm, sprinkled with coarse salt. The pretzels are 2 cents each. You buy one, still have 3 cents left. The pretzel is chewy and salty, and exactly what you need after 10 hours of pressing coats in August heat. You eat it walking up Orchard Street toward 97, watching the evening crowd. The street is still packed. It never stops, but the energy is different, slower. People heading home after work. Kids playing stickball in the street. Women sitting on stoops trying to catch any breeze that might exist. At 97 Orchard, you climb the 4 flights in total darkness. The hallway has no lights. You navigate by feel and memory. Inside the apartment, the family's already eating dinner. Mrs. Davidowitz has made soup, potatoes and onions in water, basically with maybe a chicken bone for flavor if you're lucky. You get a bowl. Sit on the floor, because there aren't enough chairs. Eat quietly while the family talks in Yiddish around you. You're not really part of this family. You rent the bed space, $2 a week, and Mrs. Davidowitz feeds you 1 meal a day as part of the deal. But you're not family. You're a boarder. A stranger who sleeps in their room and shares their air. That's normal. Half the tenements in the Lower East Side operate this way. Families rent out bed space to single men to help make rent. Sometimes you share a bed with another boarder. Sometimes you sleep in shifts. You use the bed at night. Someone else uses it during the day. Whatever works. After dinner, there's time to yourself. An hour, maybe 2, before exhaustion takes over and sleep becomes unavoidable. You could go out. There's a beer hall on Essex Street where the young guys gather. Cards, drinking, sometimes a girl if you're lucky. Model goes there most nights, but you're tired and you've got 3 cents left from Toda. 3 cents might buy you something tomorrow, or you might save it. Build up a little cushion so you stay in. Sit by the window. Watch the street below. The sun is setting. Not that you can see the sun. You're surrounded by 5-story buildings, but the light changes. The sky goes from white to orange to gray. Candles appear in windows up and down the block. The lamplighter makes his rounds, lighting the gas lamps on the corners. They don't provide much light, but there's something. The sounds of evening settle in. Distant music from somewhere. A baby crying. Arguments in Yiddish and Italian and Chinese drifting up from apartments above and below. This is home now. 97 Orchard Street, Lower East Side, Manhattan. Not the home you were born into. Not the place where your mother still lives in Bialystok in a wooden house with a garden. Where you grew up speaking Yiddish and eating your mother's cooking and going to Cheetah to learn Torah. That place might as well be on the moon. This is home. This cramped apartment shared with strangers. This street that never sleeps. This city that chews people up and spits them out and keeps right on going. You close your eyes. Tomorrow is another day. Another 5:45 wake up. Another round of pressing coats until your arms give out. Another dance with death in the form of disease and fire and industrial accidents and 100 other ways New York kills people. But tonight, you're alive. You're warm enough, fed enough, safe enough. That's more than a lot of people can say. You lie down on the mattress next to Mottel, who's already snoring. Bed bugs start biting almost immediately. You're so used to it, you barely notice anymore. Outside, the city continues. It never stops. Even at midnight, even at 3 o'clock in the morning, there's always something happening. Someone working, someone dying, someone being born, someone making money, someone losing everything. The great machine of New York, grinding through the night, feeding on ambition and desperation and hope, and you're part of it now. Whether you want to be or not, the next morning comes too soon. The Shemaz is knocking again. The bells are ringing again. The city is waking up like it does every morning. with noise and chaos, and the smell of 500,000 people trying to survive another day. You splash water on your face, pull on your clothes, stumble down 4 flights in darkness. Zulman is already at his cutting table when you arrive at 5:52. "You're late," he says. "You're not late. You never are, but you don't argue. I need you to go uptown," Ullman says without looking up from his pattern. 23rd Street delivery. Your stomach drops. 23rd Street isn't the Lower East Side. 23rd Street is uptown. That's a different world. What's the address? 175th Avenue. Ask for Mr. Morrison. He's expecting 6 vests. Don't let him Jew you down on price. We agreed on $8 total, and I want $8, not $750, not $750, and $775. 8. The irony of a Jewish man telling you not to let someone Jew you down is not lost on you, but you keep your mouth shut. Zulman hands you the package. 6 vests wrapped in brown paper and tied with string and 8 cents for streetcar fare. Straight there, straight back. Don't get lost. Don't get robbed. Don't spend my money on niches. Yes, sir. You walk west on Delancey Street toward the Bowery, where you can catch the streetcar uptown. The Bowery is the dividing line between the Lower East Side and the rest of Manhattan. East of the Bowery is immigrants and tenements and sweatshops. West of the Bowery is everything else. The streetcar arrives, a horse-drawn car on rails packed with people heading to work. You push your way on, pay your 4 cents, and grab a strap hanging from the ceiling. The car lurches forward. You ride north, watching the city churn. Through the windows. The tenements thin out. The streets get wider. The buildings get taller. By the time you're passing Union Square at 14th Street, you're in a completely different New York. Buildings here are stone and brick instead of wood. Streets are paved with proper cobblestones instead of dirt and garbage. People dress better, walk different. Even the air smells cleaner. Less sewage, more horses, which is actually an improvement. At 23rd Street you get off and there it is, the Flatiron Building. You've heard of it. Everyone has. But seeing it in person is something else entirely. The building rises 22 stories into the air at the intersection where Broadway, 5th Avenue, and 23rd Street meet. It's shaped like a triangle, like a flat iron, hence the name. Wedge-shaped to fit the weird triangular plot of land. Designed by Daniel Burnham. Completed in 1902 after 2 years of construction, just 3 years ago. The steel frame was manufactured in Pittsburgh, shipped to New York, and assembled on site. The exterior is terracotta and limestone. The height is 285 feet to the roof, 307 feet to the top of the flagpole. They say Burnham designed it so the wind would flow around the building instead of knocking it over. People said it would collapse in the first strong wind. It's still standing. You stand there on the corner of 23rd and 5th just looking up. A country boy from Bialystok, staring at a building taller than anything he ever imagined existed. The morning light hits the terracotta and makes it glow golden. The windows, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, reflect the sky. Birds circle around the upper floors. Pigeons mostly, but you see a hawk up there too, hunting. The men who built this were working just 3 years ago. Your own cousin who arrived in 1900 might have watched them hoisting the steel beams into place. It's that recent, that real, but you can't stand. There forever. The vests won't deliver themselves. 175th Avenue is 3 blocks north. A shorter building, only 8 stories, but still impressive by any standard, except the flat iron. You climb to the 3rd floor, find the office marked Morrison Textiles, and knock. Come in. Mr. Morrison is a fat man with mutton-chopped sideburns and a vest straining at its buttons. His office smells like cigar smoke and money. "You're from Katz?" he asks, not looking up from papers on his desk. "Yes, sir. The vests. You unwrap the package. 6 vests in dark gray wool, expertly constructed. Lapels pressed to perfection by your own hands yesterday afternoon." Morrison examines them, holds one up to the light, checks the stitching, tugs at a button. Quality work, he admits. Cat still has the touch. He reaches into his desk drawer, pulls out a cash box, starts counting bills. 750 sound fair. Zulman's voice echoes in your head. Don't let him Jew you down. $8, not 750. Mr. Cat, said 8. Sir, Morrison looks at you, really looks at you. Studies your face, your clothes, the way you're standing. He's trying to decide if you'll cave. These vests are pure wool from a mill in Massachusetts, you say, keeping your voice steady. Double-stitch seams, reinforced buttonholes. Feel the weight. These will last 10 years of daily wear. You won't find better anywhere on Fifth Avenue. This is true. Zolman doesn't produce garbage. Morrison is quiet for a moment. Then he laughs. Not a mean laugh. More like respect. You've got stones, kid. I'll give you that. He counts out $8, 2 5s and 6 1s. Wait. No. 8 $1 bills. Tell Katz, I said. He's training you, right? You take the money, count it twice, fold it carefully, and tuck it into your inside coat pocket where nobody can grab it. Thank you, Mr. Morrison. Get out of here before I change my mind. Outside, you allow yourself a moment of pride. You just nag. Associated with an uptown textile merchant in one. Walked out with Zulman's full asking price. No discounts. No compromises. That means something. You head back toward 23rd Street, but instead of going straight to the streetcar, you take a detour. You want to see the Flatiron Building up close. The base of the building is surrounded by pedestrians, all of them moving with purpose. Men in suits carrying briefcases, women in long skirts and elaborate hats, a completely different species from the pushcart vendors and sweatshop workers of the Lower East Side. You walk around the narrow end, the point of the triangle, and look up. From here, the building seems impossibly thin, like it's a stage set, a facade with nothing behind it. But it's real. Solid. Steel and stone and terracotta, rising 22 stories into the sky. A police officer is stationed at the corner. You learn later, years later actually, that they call this corner the windiest spot in New York. The way the building is shaped, it creates weird wind patterns. Gusts strong enough to knock a man over, strong enough to lift women's skirts. Which is why there's a cop here to chase away the perverts, who gather hoping for a glimpse of ankle. But you don't know that yet. You just know the wind hits you like a wall, almost pushes you into the street. Keep moving, the cop says not unkindly. No loitering. You keep moving. On the streetcar heading back downtown, you think about what you just saw. Buildings like the Flatiron, offices like Morrison's with wooden desks and gas lamps and carpets on the floor. Men in suits who've never pressed a coat or delivered a package or slept tend to a room. That's one version of New York. The version where you ride elevators to the 20th floor and make business deals and go home to brownstones with private bathrooms. Then there's your version. A version where you sleep on a straw mattress, scrawling with bedbugs and share a room with 8 strangers, and press coats for 12 hours a day in August heat for $1.25 a week. Both versions exist in the same city, sometimes in the same building, rich people upstairs, poor people in the basement. The streetcar crosses back over the Bowery in your home again, or at least back in your neighborhood. The tenements rise up around you. The streets narrow, the crowd thickens, the smell returns. Sewage and garbage and humanity packed too tight. Welcome back to the Lower East Side. It's only 900 in the morning, but Hester Street Market is already in full chaos. And when I say chaos, I need you to understand what that means. In 1905, Lower East Side. This isn't a farmer's market where vendors set up cute little stalls and sell organic vegetables. This is war. This is Darwinism. This is capitalism in its rawest, most brutal form. The street hab between Essex and Norfolk, maybe 3 blocks total, is so packed with pushcarts, you literally cannot see the cobblestones. The carts are jammed wheel to heel, stacked high with goods, each one fighting for the same customers. And the noise, sweet God, the noise. Every vendor is screaming at the top of their lungs. Herring, fat herring, better than your mother-made apples. 3 for 2 cents. Look how red pants. Good pants. Only 1 whole. Onions. Cooking onions. Fish, fresh fish. Still moving. Bread. Day-old bread. Only a little stale. Everyone is yelling because everyone else is yelling. And if you don't yell, nobody hears you. Your goods don't sell. your family doesn't eat. Add to that the crowd of shoppers, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all pushing and shoving and arguing and inspecting goods and negotiating prices. Add the horses, pulling wagons through crowds that barely part. Add the children running everywhere, stealing when they can, playing when they can, playing when they can. Mad. Add the beggars sitting against buildings with their hands out. Add the dogs eating garbage in the gutters. Add the arguments breaking out in 6 languages simultaneously. Yiddish and Italian and Russian and Polish and Hungarian and German, all mixing into a linguistic soup that somehow everyone understands. The smell is incredible. Not good incredible, just intense. Pickles from barrels, fresh fish, not so fresh fish, onions, garlic, horse manure, human sweat, rotting vegetables, live chickens, cold smoke, and underneath it all, the base note of poverty that permeates everything in this neighborhood. You've learned to navigate it mostly. The key is to never stop moving and never make eye contact with vendors unless you actually want to buy something. 'Cause if you make eye contact, they've got you. Young man, come here. Look at these apples. You keep walking. The apple vendor moves on to her next target. Sir, you need a good coat. I have coats. $3. You shake your head. Keep walking. A child, maybe 7 years old, darts past you so close you feel the breeze. He's carrying something bulky under his coat. Probably just stole it from a cart somewhere. The vendor is screaming behind him, but the kid is already gone, swallowed by the crowd. Welcome to Hester Street. You need to cut through the market to get back to Lello Street. There's no avoiding it. The market is the main artery of the neighborhood, and all paths led through it eventually. Near the corner of Hester and Lello, a fight breaks out. 2 vendors, both selling pickles from barrels, are screaming at each other in Yiddish. Something about territory, about one of them stealing the other's spot. The argument escalates. Shoving starts. A barrel tips over. Pickles roll everywhere. Brine splashes across the street. Within seconds, a crowd is gathered. Some people are trying to break it up. Others are placing bets on who will win. Children are scooping up the spilled pickles. A cop arrives, one of the Irish officers from the 7th Precinct, and breaks things up with his nightstick, not gently. The whole thing takes maybe 3 minutes from start to finish. Then it's over. The crowd disperses. The vendors clean up their spilled pickles. The street returns to its normal level of chaos. Just another Tuesday morning on Hester Street. You make it back to Zulman's shop at 9:30, sweating through your shirt from the August heat and the stress of navigating uptown in the market. Zulman is at his sewing machine, working on a coat collar. You got the money? He asks without looking up. You pull out the $8, count it onto his cutting table. He counts it again, nods, tucks it into his cash box. Morrison give you trouble. He tried for $750. I held at $8. Zaman looks at you, really looks at you. Something that might be pride flickers across his face. Good. That Morrison. He tries that with everyone. Most people cave. You didn't cave. He turns back to his machine. Now press these lapels. We've got 6 more coats to finish by tonight. And just like that, you're back to work. Around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, when the heat is at its worst and you're dizzy from coal fumes and lack of food, Zulman sends you on another errand. Greenbaum's, Grand Street. Tell him I need wool, black, medium weight, enough for 12 coats. Ask for his best price. No money this time. This is just reconnaissance. Find out what Greenbaum is charging. Report back and Zulman will decide if it's worth buying. Greenbaum's shop is on Grand Street between Orchard and Lello, squeezed between Orchard and Lello, squeezed between a Matzo bakery and a store selling religious articles tallow to feel in Musas. Inside the shop is floor-to-ceiling fabric, bolts of wool and cotton, and linen stacked on shelves, organized by color and weight. The smell of raw wool is overwhelming. Len, Olene, and something slightly animal. Abraham Greenbaum is behind the counter. He's maybe 55 with a gray beard and spectacles. Could make his eyes look huge. Cat sent you, he asks, in Yiddish. Yes, sir. He needs wool, black, medium weight. Enough for 12 coats. Greenbaum pulls out a ledger, starts flipping through pages covered in cramped handwriting. 12 coats, that's 36 yards, give or take, depending on the pattern. He starts pulling bolts off the shelf, unwraps one, spreads the fabric on the counter. This is from a mill in Connecticut. Good quality. Not the best, but good. Feel it. You run your fingers across the wool. It's smooth, but not too smooth. Substantial weight. No obvious flaws in the weave. How much? $36.60 at, let's say, 60 a yard. $21.60 for the lot. You do the math in your head. 36 yards at 60 is indeed $21.60. That's wholesale. Zulman will turn that wool into 12 coats, sell them to contractors like Morrison for maybe $8 per coat. That's $96 gross, minus $21.60 for fabric minus thread and buttons and other supplies. Maybe another $10 minus labor. Yours and Zulman's. Call it another $15. That leaves about $50 profit on 12 coats. Not bad, but only if 60 cents per yard is actually a good price. Zulman said you do 50. You try. Greenbaum laughs. Actually laughs. Zulman said that, did he? That Mamza? He knows the mill price went up last month. Cotton crop failed down south, so everyone's buying wool. So wool prices went up. Simple economics, 55 cents. You counter 58, and that's cutting my own throat. I've got overhead too. You know, rent, utilities, my idiot nephew, who works here and breaks more than he sells. You pretend to think about it. I need to tell Zellman the price. He'll decide. You tell Zellman that Greenbaum said 58 cents is the best price in the neighborhood. He wants to comparison shop. He can, but he'll find the same price everywhere. Or worse. You nod. I'll tell him. Good. Now get out. I've got real customers coming. Back at the shop, you report to Zulnan. Greenbar wants 58 cents per yard, says mill prices went up. Zman makes a face. That goneth he said that. Yes, sir. Said cotton crop failed, so everyone's buying wool. Selman is quiet for a moment thinking. He's not wrong. I heard the same thing from Epstein last week. Cotton prices are through the roof. He does some calculations on a scrap of paper. 58, 36, why $21.60 total. He thinks, for another moment, fine, we'll take it. But you go back tomorrow and negotiate him down to 56. Tell him I pay cash today. No credit. That's worth 2 cents a yard to him. Less paperwork, less risk. Yes, sir. And this time, actually negotiate. Don't just take his first prize. Yes, sir. You spend the rest of the afternoon pressing coats until your arms feel like they're going to fall off. Friday morning, Zulman sends you across the river. Brooklyn, he says. Williamsburg. There's a button manufacturer on Bedford Avenue. Name is Lefkowitz. I need 2 gross of black buttons, 1 gross of gray. Here's the address. He hands you a piece of paper with an address written in Yiddish, Bedford Avenue, near South 4th Street, and $3 for the buttons plus ferry fare. Don't lose the money. Don't get robbed. And don't pay more than $250 for the buttons. Your stomach drops. Brooklyn means crossing the East River. Crossing the East River means either the Brooklyn Bridge, which costs a penny and is always packed, or the ferry, which costs 2 cents, but goes directly to Williamsburg. Zalman sees your face. What? He's scared of a little water. No, sir. Good. Ferry leaves from Grand Street. Don't miss it. The Grand Street ferry terminal is at the end of Grand Street, right where it hits the East River. The terminal is a wooden structure that juts out into the water with covered waiting areas and ticket windows. Yo. You buy your ticket 2 cents from a man behind a grated window and join the crowd waiting for the next boat. The crowd is mixed. Workers heading to the Williamsburg factories. Housewives going to visit family. A few well-dressed people who probably have business in Brooklyn. Everyone packed together in the August heat, sweating and waiting. The ferry arrives 10 minutes later. It's a steam-powered boat, maybe 60 feet long, with an open deck for passengers and a covered cabin for those who can afford it. The boat is called the Progress, according to the name painted on the side. You board with the crowd, maybe 80 people, pushing their way on, and find a spot near the railing. The engine starts with a cough of black smoke. The boat shutters, and then you're moving, pulling away from Manhattan. You get a view of the city you've never had before. From the water, The Lower East Side looks even more compressed than it feels from the street. The tenements rise like walls from the riverbank. 5 stories, 6 stories, packed shoulder to shoulder, with no space between them. Laundry hangs from every window, creating a crazy quilt of colors. Smoke rises from 1,000 chimneys. And behind the tenements, poking up above everything else, you can see the towers of the Brooklyn Bridge to the south, and the spires of churches scattered throughout the city. The water itself is disgusting. The East River in 1905 is essentially an open sewer. Every street drains into it. Every outhouse, every factory, every ship pumps its bilge water here. The surface is covered with a film of oil and garbage. Dead. Fish float past. The smell is incredible, but boats fill the river anyway, because the river is Manhattan's highway around you. Dozens of other vessels are moving. Ferries like yours carrying passengers and cargo. Barges loaded with coal or lumber or bricks. Tugboats pulling strings of load. D-vessels. Sailboats. Yes, sailboats still exist in 1905. Threading through the steam traffic. A police boat. A fireboat. Its pump equipment visible on deck. And beyond all of that, anchored in the deeper water, the ocean-going ships. Steamships with tall funnels. Sailing ships with multiple masts, vessels from England and Germany and Italy and places you've never heard of, all here to unload cargo, or take on passengers, or refit, before heading back out to sea. The ferryboat chugs across the river. The crossing takes maybe 10 minutes. To your right, south, you can see the Brooklyn Bridge clearly now, the massive stone towers, the web of cables, traffic moving across the roadway, though from here it's too far to make out individual people. That bridge opened in 1883, just 22 years ago. That bridge opened in 1883, just 22 years ago. Before that, the only way across was by ferry like you're doing now. They say the bridge carries 150,000 people per day. Pedestrians, horses, streetcars, elevated trains, all on the same structure. An engineering miracle. But engineering miracle cost money. A penny to cross on foot, more for horses and vehicles. The ferry is cheaper. If you're going to Williamsburg specifically, the ferry boat docks at the Williamsburg terminal with a thud that rattles your teeth. The crowd surges off, everyone pushing toward the gangway, trying to get off first. Welcome to Brooklyn. Williamsburg in 1905 is different from Manhattan. Newer mostly. The buildings are shorter. The streets are wider. It feels less compressed, less desperate, but it's still poor, still immigrant-heavy. Germans, Poles, Italians, Jews, everyone who couldn't afford Manhattan or couldn't stand the crowding anymore. You walk up Bedford Avenue watching the addresses. South 5th Street, South 4th Street, South 3rd. There a storefront with Lefkowitz buttons painted on the window. Inside the shop is filled with buttons, not an exagger. Ration, literally filled with buttons. Glass jars on every shelf, each one containing buttons of a specific type. Wooden buttons, metal buttons, bone buttons, shell buttons, buttons carved with designs, plain buttons, buttons in every color imaginable. Mr. Lefkowitz is a small man, maybe 60, with enormous hands that seem wrong for such delicate work. "You're from Katz?" he asks. "Yes, sir." He needs buttons, black and gray. "For coats?" "Yes, sir." Lefkowitz nods, starts pulling jars off shelves. He pours buttons onto the counter, first black ones, then gray ones, and starts sorting through them, examining each button, discarding ones with flaws. "These are bone," he says, holding up a black button. "Not shell, not wood. Real bone from cattle. These won't crack him. Cold weather won't fade in sunlight. These will outlast the coats you sew them onto." He's not wrong. The buttons are high quality. You can tell just by looking at them. Katz wanted 2 gross of black, 1 gross of gray. That's let me figure. He pulls out a pencil and paper. 2 gross is 288 buttons. 1 gross is 144. Total 432 buttons. At half a cent per button, that's $216. You do the math in your head. 432 buttons at half a cent. Each is indeed $216. Zulman gave you $3 and said not to pay more than $250, but $216 is already lower than $250. So negotiating down seems greedy. On the other hand, the difference between 216 and what Zulman authorized you to pay, let's say 240, is 24. 24 cents is almost 2 days' wages for some people. Zulman said you'd do $2 even you try. Lekowitz laughs not meanly. Zulman says a lot of things. 210 final offer. These are quality buttons and I'm already barely making anything at half a cent each. 205. He looks at you studying your face, trying to decide if you'll walk away. You got stones, kid? Fine, 205. But you tell Katz he owes me a favor. Yes, sir. Thank you. You count out the money. $25. A. Send Lekowitz packs the buttons into 3 small cloth bags tied with string. Tell Katz these are good buttons, not garbage. He sews these on, his customers will notice. I'll tell him. Outside, you tuck the button bags carefully into your coat pockets and head back toward the ferry terminal. You just saved Zeman 95 cents on buttons. That's not nothing. That's significant. And you've got enough money left for ferry fare back to Manhattan. 2 cents with 93 cents to spare. 93 cents. You could keep some of that. Not all of it. That would be stealing, but maybe 20 cents. His man would never know. You could say, Lefowitz charged $225, which is still under the $250 maximum, and pocket 20 cents. 20 cents buys a lot. A full meal at a restaurant, 3 kishes, a week's worth of bread. But then you think about Zellman, the way he counted the Morrison money, the way he watches everything. He'd know. Somehow he'd know. And getting fired for stealing 20 cents would be the stupidest thing you could possibly do. So you decide. You'll give Zulman back every penny. Report that you got the buttons for 205. Let him decide if you deserve a commission. The ferry back to Manhattan is less crowded. Mid-morning traffic is lighter. You stand at the railing again, watching Brooklyn recede behind you. Watching Brooklyn recede behind you. The factories and tenements of Williamsburg, the church spires, the whole sprawling immigrant neighborhood, fading into the haze and Manhattan growing larger ahead of you. The Lower East Side, your neighborhood home. The word feels strange. Home. You've been in New York 14 months. That's not very long, but Baystock already feels like a dream. A story you heard once about a place that might not be real. Your mother's face is fading from memory. Your sister's names are becoming sounds without faces attached. The language you spoke, Yiddish mixed with Polish, is being replaced by the Yiddish-English hybrid Ev. The Reunion speaks here. You're becoming American, whether you want to or not, whether you even know what that means. The ferry docks at Grand Street. You disembark with the crowd. Walk the 4 blocks back to Lello Street and enter Zulman's shop at 11:15. Zulman is pressing a coat using your iron, actually, since his pressing skills are better than yours. You got the buttons? He asks without looking up. You pull out the 3 cloth bags. Set them on the cutting table. 2 gross black, 1 gross gray. Left charge $25. You count out the remaining 93. Place it on the table next to the buttons. Zulman looks at the money, looks at the buttons. Looks at you. 205 for bone buttons. Yes, sir. I tried for $2 even. He wouldn't go lower than 205. Zulman unties one of the bags, pours buttons into his palm, examines them closely. These are good buttons, he says quietly. Better than I expected for this price. He looks at you again. You did good work crossing the river by yourself, negotiating with Lefkowitz, getting quality buttons for under budget. He counts out 20 cents from the pile of change on the table, hands it to you. That's yours. Commission. You stare at the 20 cents in your palm. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me. You earned it. Now get back to work. These coats won't press themselves. Saturday afternoon after the shop closes early for Shabbos, you have a few hours free, before sundown. Muzzle wants to go to the Bowery. There's a penny arcade, he says, with a moving picture machine, 10 cents to watch. 10 cents is expensive, but you've got 20 cents from Zulman's commission. And you've been working 12-hour days, all week, and you want to see something that isn't the inside of Zulman's shop. So, you go. The Bowery is different from the Lower East Side, different from uptown. This is where New York puts the things it doesn't want to look at too closely. The flop houses where men rent a bed for 5 cents a night. The concert halls, variety theaters they're called, where women dance and sing for audiences of drunk workers. The saloons, dozens of them, one every 20 feet, where you can get drunk for a nickel. The pawn shops, the tattoo parlors, the fortune tellers, the missions where preachers try to save your soul. This is also where the opium dens are. Though you've never been inside one, and never planned to, you've heard stories, men lying on wooden bunks, smoking from long pipes, lost in dreams they never wake up from. Sometimes they die right there on the bunks. Sometimes they wander out into traffic and get hit by wagons. The streets are narrower and dirtier than even the Lower East Side. The buildings sag. The people look harder, hungrier, more desperate. But the Bowery is also where the entertainment is. The theaters, not the fancy uptown theaters where rich people watch Shakespeare, but the cheap theaters where working people watch melodramas and comedies. 10 cents for a ticket. Sometimes 5 cents for standing room. The museums, not art museums, but dime museums full of oddities. Two-headed animals, preserved in formaldehyde. Wax figures of famous criminals. Human curiosities, the politically correct term for people with disabilities, who are put on display for entertainment. And the penny arcades. The arcade model brings you to is on the Bowery, between Houston and Bleecker, squeezed between a saloon and a flophouse. Inside is dark and loud, and smells like machine oil and unwashed humans. The arcade is filled with machines, kitoscopes, individual viewing boxes, where you peer through a lens and watch a moving picture. Motoscopes, flip book machines, where you turn a crank and images appear to move. Fortune-telling machines, strength-testing machines. Everything costs a penny. Some things cost a nickel or a dime. The moving picture machine model wants to see cost 10. You pay the attendant, a bored-looking man with a cigarette dangling from his lips, and enter a small room with benches facing a white sheet hung on the wall. Maybe 30 people are crammed in here, waiting. The lights go out. The machine starts. You can hear it clattering behind you. Film moving through the projector, and then images appear on the sheet. Moving images. It's a train arriving at a station. The train grows larger as it approaches, and for a moment, your brain can't process what you're seeing, because it looks real, like an actual train is about to burst through the sheet and crush everyone. People gasp. A woman screams. Someone laughs nervously. The train arrives at the station, stops. People disembark. The film flickers and ends. Total runtime, maybe 90 seconds. The lights come on. That's it. That's what you paid 10 cents to see. 90 seconds of a train arriving at a station. And it was worth every penny. That was incredible, Mottel says as you exit into the street. You agree. You've never seen anything like it. You've heard about moving pictures, the Lumiere brothers in France, Edison's Kitoscope, experiments all over the world. But seeing one in person is different. That's the future right there. Images that move. Stories that happen right in front of you without actors or stages. You don't know it yet, but in 20 years, moving pictures will be everywhere. In 40 years, they'll have sound. In 60 years, they'll be in color. In a 100 years, people will watch them in their homes on machines that don't exist yet. But right now, in 1905 on the Bowery, you just spent 10 cents to watch a train arrive at a station. And it was magical. Walking back to the Lower East Side, you pass a mission. The sign says, Bowery Mission. Free meals, free beds, salvation free. A line of men stretches down the block, maybe 50 of them, waiting for free soup and a place to sleep. These are the men who didn't make it, who came to New York with the same hopes you had, who found work, lost work, couldn't find it again, who drank their wages or gambled them, or just had bad luck, who ended up here on the Bowery, living meal to meal, bed to bed, one step away from dying in the street. That could be you. One bad month, one injury, one mistake, one bit of bad luck. The difference between you and these men might be nothing more than timing. You keep walking. Monday morning, Zolman hands you an address uptown, Broadway and 10th Street, Waker's Department Store. They ordered 24 coats last month. I need you to deliver them and collect payment. 24 coats is a huge order. The package is enormous. You have to hire a pushcart and a kid to help you drag it uptown. The kid charges you 5 cents. Highway robbery, but you don't have a choice. John Wakaker's department store opened in 1896 in the building. That used to be the 80 Stewart department store before Stewart died and his business collapsed. The building takes up an entire city block, Broadway to 4th Avenue, 9th Street to 10th Street. It's massive, 6 stories tall, terracotta facade, huge windows displaying mannequins in the latest fashions. This is where wealthy New Yorkers shop. Where society ladies come to buy dresses and hats and furniture, where men buy tailored suits that cost more than your entire annual income. You and the pushcart kid drag the package to the delivery entrance on 10th Street. A uniformed doorman, an actual doorman for the loading dock, stops you. Delivery, coats for Mr. Harrison, men's department. The doorman checks a clipboard, nods, waves you through. Inside the loading dock is organized chaos. Dozens of delivery men unloading crates and boxes and packages. Everything from furniture to glacier to food, all of it flowing into the store, to be sold to people who have men. One eye. A clerk directs you to the men's department on the 2nd floor. You carry the package up a service stairway. No elevator for delivery people and emerge into the department store proper. And it's like stepping into another world. The sales floor is a store mess. High ceilings with chandeliers, polished wood floors, glass display cases everywhere, filled with merchandise arranged artfully. The men's department sells suits and coats and shirts and accessories. Everything displayed like it's treasure, like it's too valuable to touch without permission. Salesmen in perfect suits move among customers. Men in expensive clothes, women shopping for their husbands, all of them being treated like royalty. You, in your sweat-stained shirt and worn trousers, carrying a package of coats, are invisible. Customers look through you. Salesmen ignore you. You find Mr. Harrison at a desk in the back. He's a thin man, maybe 50, with a mustache waxed into points. From Cats, he asks, barely glancing at you. Yes, sir. 2 dozen coats. Harrison unwraps the package, examines the first coat, holds it up, checks the seams, the buttons, the lining, then the second coat, then the third. He's looking for defects, any excuse to reject the order or demand a discount. But Zellman's work is perfect. There's nothing to complain about. Acceptable, Harrison says finally. Though the lapels could be pressed flatter. The lapels are perfect. You press them yourself, but you keep your mouth shut. Harrison counts out money from a cash drawer. $36, 24 coats at $1.50 each. You count it twice. Fold it carefully. Tuck it into your inside pocket. Tell Katz I'll have another order next month. Harrison says, same quantity, but I want better. Pressing. Yes, sir. You leave before he can insult you further, but you don't leave the store immediately. You've never been inside a place like this. You want to see it. You walk through the sales floors, trying to look like you belong. It doesn't work. Your clothes give you away immediately, but nobody stops you. The ground floor sells women's accessories. The ground floor sells women's accessories. Gloves, handbags, jewelry, perfume. Everything displayed in glass cases like museum pieces. A pair of gloves costs $3. $3. That's more than you make in 2 weeks. The 2nd floor is men's clothes. The 3rd floor is furniture. The 4th floor is housewares, dishes, linens, kitchen equipment. And on the 5th floor, there's a restaurant. An actual restaurant inside the department store where shoppers can stop for lunch. You peer through the doorway and see white tablecloth silver utensils. Waiters in uniform serving food on china plates. A sign near the entrance list, prices. Soup is 25 cents. A sandwich is 35. A full meal is 75. 75 cents for one meal. You could eat for a week on 75. You leave Wakers and step back onto Broadway into bright sunshine. The street outside is packed with traffic. Horse-drawn carriages, automobiles. Yes, automobiles, though they're still rare in 1905. Streetcars, pedestrians in expensive clothes. This is New York, too. The other New York, the one where people shop at W. Makers, neat 75-cent lunches, and live in brownstones with private bathrooms. You start walking south back toward the Lower East Side and watch the city change around you. The buildings get shorter, the street gets dirtier, the crowd gets poorer. By the time you cross Houston Street back into your neighborhood, you're home again. The real home, the tenements, and push carts, and sweatshops. the place where people like you actually live. That evening, after delivering the 1 acre's money to Zulman, who counts it 3 times and nods approval, you have 2 hours before dark. Mottel suggests the Café Royal on 2nd Avenue. It's where the intellectuals go, he says. Writers, actors, people who think they're smarter than everyone else. It's entertaining. The Café Royal is famous in the neighborhood. It's where the Yiddish theater people gather after performances, where poets read their work, where socialists and anarchists argue about revolution. You've never been inside. The cafe is packed when you arrive. Every table full, smoke hanging in the air from 50 cigarettes. The smell hits you first. Coffee. Real coffee. Not the burnt grain substitute most people drink. Also tobacco. Also sweat and wool and the accumulated odor of humans packed too close. You and Mottel find a spot standing along the wall watching. At one table, a group of men are arguing in Yiddish. Something about labor unions, about whether the garment workers should strike for better conditions. The bosses will never give us anything. One man shouts, "We have to take it, organize, strike, and starve while we're striking." Another man counters, "You think solidarity puts food on the table?" The argument escalates. Other patrons join in. Within minutes, half the cafe is debating labor politics. At another table, a woman is reading from a newspaper. The Forward Dear Vorwärts, the Yiddish daily that everyone in the neighborhood reads. She's reading an advice column aloud, and people are laughing at the ridiculous problems people write in about. Near the back, a man with wild hair and a stained coat is writing furiously in a notebook, oblivious to everything around him. A poet probably, or a playwright, or someone who thinks he's either of those things. The cafe serves tea in glasses, Russian style. Coffee costs a nickel. Cake is a dime. You can't afford coffee or cake, but you buy a glass of tea for 3 cents and nurse it slowly, making it last. This is immigrant life. This is what people do when they're not working. They gather, they talk, they argue. They try to figure out what it means to be Jewish in America, what it means to be workers in capitalism, what it means to hold on to the old world while living in the new one. You don't have answers to any of those questions, but you're here listening, learning. That's something. The next day, you're late. Actually late, for once. Not so mans pretend you're late when you arrive 30 seconds before 6. Actually late. You overslept. The shammers didn't knock, or you didn't hear him. Mottel didn't wake you. The sun was already up when you finally opened your eyes. You run down 4 flights of stairs, run the 2 blocks to Lello Street, burst through the door at 612, sweating and out of breath. Zulman is at his machine working on a coat lining. He looks up when you enter, says nothing, goes back to work. You take your place at the pressing station, light the coal in the iron, and wait for the lecture. It doesn't come. Not right away. Zman works silently for the next hour. You press lapels and collars and button plackets, keeping your head down, waiting. Finally, at 7:30, when Mottel arrives and takes over one of the sewing machines, Zulman calls you over. Walk with me. This is new. Zulman never leaves the shop during work hours. You follow him outside. He walks west on Lello toward the Bowery, saying nothing. Finally, at the corner of Lello and Delancey, he stops. You were 12 minutes late this morning. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir. Do you know what 12 minutes cost me? You shake your head. Nothing. Zulman says, 12 minutes cost me nothing. You're a good worker. You show up every day. You do quality work. You don't steal. You don't lie. 12 minutes one time doesn't matter. He's quiet for a moment. When I was your age, he says, I worked in a shop on Allen Street. My master was a Monza, a real bastard. He beat me for being late. Beat me for making mistakes. Beat me for talking back. One time, he beat me just because he was in a bad mood. You don't know what to say. I swore when I had my own shop, I'd never beat like him. I'd never beat my workers. I'd never punish them for being human. He looks at you. You're human. He looks at you. You're human. He. Rachel, you overslept. It happens. Don't do it again. But if you do, I'm not going to destroy you over it. You feel something loosen in your chest. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me. Just keep working hard. Keep learning. In a few years, you'll finish your apprenticeship. You'll be a journeyman. You'll have options. Maybe you stay with me. Maybe you go work somewhere else. Maybe you start your own shop. He gestures back toward Lello Street. That could be you someday. Your own shop, your own apprentices, your own chance to choose what kind of master you want to be. You walk back to the shop in silence. Something has shifted. Some wall between master and apprentice has cracked. Zulman isn't just your boss. He's a person who was once young and scared and powerless, who suffered, who swore to be different. That could be you. That might actually be you. The evening customers start arriving around 5 o'clock. The shop gets busy again. A woman needs alterations on her husband's coat. The sleeves are too long. You measure mark with chalk. Promise it'll be ready by Thursday. A man wants buttons replaced on a vest. His wife tried to sew them herself and botched the job. Zorman charges him 20 cents for the repair work, which takes 10 minutes. A contractor from Broome Street drops off fabric for 6 coats, wants them finished by Monday. Zorman negotiates the price, $130 per coat, and accepts the job. The routine of commerce, the endless small transactions that keep the city running. Outside, the sun is setting. You can't see the sun itself. The tenements block everything, but the light through the shop windows turns golden, then orange, then fades altogether. Candles are lit. The street vendors start packing up their carts. Another day in 1905. New York slowly winded down, but not over yet. The shop closes at 7:30. This man is precise about this. 7:30 means 7:30. Not 7:40, not 8. The shutters go up. The door is bolted. The day's takings are counted out on the cutting table. Tonight it's a good haul. The waker's delivery, the contractor's deposit, the small repair jobs. All told, maybe $15 came in today. Zman counts the coins and bills twice, makes a note in his ledger with a stub of pencil, and locks everything in the strong box he keeps beneath the floorboards under his cutting table. Supper, he says. Supper happens in the back room of the shop. There's a small kitchen there, barely bigger than a closet, with a cold stove and a table and 3 rickety chairs. Mrs. Katz does the cooking. She's a worn-looking woman, maybe 40, with gray hair and hands roughened by work. She was probably pretty once before New York in poverty and raising 3 children in a tenement ground you down. Tonight it's chicken soup with potatoes. The chicken is mostly bones and gristle, but there's actual chicken in there, not just broth, which makes this a good night. The potatoes are soft and bland, but there's plenty of them. You eat until you're full, which is more than you could say for most meals back in Bialystok, where there were days you went to bed hungry because there simply wasn't enough food. Whatever else you might say about America, you don't go hungry here. Not if you work. Mottel sits across from you, shoveling food into his mouth like he hasn't eaten in days. He probably hasn't eaten much. Like he hasn't eaten much. Mottel spends most of his wages on cards and girls and cheap entertainment. You went to Café Royale yesterday, Mottel says between mouthfuls. It's not a question. Word travels fast in this neighborhood for an hour. Just tea. See any famous writers? Maybe. I don't know what famous writers look like. Mottel grins. They look like everyone else except they think they're better. Mrs. Katz clears her throat. She doesn't approve of gossip at the table. You both go back to eating in silence. After supper, there's the evening routine. Cleaning the shop, sweeping the floor, organizing the fabric bolts by color and weight, making sure the thread is sorted, oiling the sewing machines. It's tedious work, but it has to be done. A messy shop loses customers. Selman says, people judge quality by appearance. If your shop looks chaotic, they assume your work is chaotic. By 8:30, the work is finished. Zellman and Mrs. Katz retire to their rooms above the shop. Yes, they live above the shop, which saves rent, but means they never really leave work. Mottel stretches, yawns, and announces he's going out. Where, you ask? Moskowitz's. There's a card game. You coming? You should say no. You should go back to Orchard Street and sleep. Tomorrow starts at 5:45, same as every day. But you've been working 6 days straight. You're 19 years old, and the thought of sitting in that crowded room at 97 Orchard with the Davidites family and the bedbugs makes you want to scream. Yeah, you say, I'm coming. Moscovitz Cafe is on Essex Street, squeezed between a pickle shop and a cobbler. From outside it looks like nothing. A wooden door, a faded sign in Yiddish and English, a single gas lamp by the entrance. Inside it's packed. The noise hits you first. Laughter, shouting, the clatter of tea glasses on wooden tables. Then the smell, tea and tobacco and bodies pressed too close together in August heat that doesn't fade just because the sun went down. The room is maybe 20 feet by 30 feet with a low ceiling blackened by decades of pipe smoke. Every table is full. People are standing along the walls, drinks in hand, talking over each other. Moskowitz himself, an old man with a beer down to his chest and maybe 5 words of English, stands behind a counter in the back, pouring tea from a giant Sama. The card game is in the corner. 6 men crowded around a small table, playing something who don't recognize Mottel knows everyone. He pushes through the crowd, slapping backs, exchanging greetings in Yiddish. This is Herschel, he says, gesturing at you. Works with me at Katz's shop. Don't cheat him too badly. The men at the table look you over. A presser from a shop on Broome Street with 4 arms like hands. A buttonhole maker's with ink stains on his fingers. No, not ink. Dye from fabric. A fellow you don't recognize who might be a legitimate worker or might be something else. Hard to tell. Can you play? The presser asks. I can learn. Sit. We'll teach you. First lesson's free. After that, you paper your education. Everyone laughs. The game is 66, which you've seen but never played. The rules are simple enough. Collect a valuable card. Score points. Highest total wins. But the strategy is complex. Knowing when to draw, when to hold, when to bet. The stakes are small, a penny to buy in, pennies on each hand, but pennies add up. By the end of the first hour, you're down 11 cents. 11 cents is 2 niches or 3 glasses of tea or a significant portion of tomorrow's lunch. I'm out, you say, pushing back from the table. Smart kid, the buttonhole maker says. Most greenhorns lose their whole week before they figure out when to quit. Mottel is still playing. He's up maybe 5 cents, grinning like he just won a fortune. You leave him to it and make your way to the counter. Moskowitz's tea is weak and oversweetened, but it's hot. And after the stress of the card game, it tastes like luxury. You find a spot along the wall and drink slowly, watching the room. This is what passes for a nightlife in the Lower East Side. Not fancy concerts or theater. Those cost money, not restaurants. Who can afford restaurants? This crowded cafes where men gather to drink tea and play cards and argue about politics and religion. And which neighborhood back in the old country was better? A man in the corner is telling a story about crossing the Atlantic. Something about a storm that lasted 3 days and people praying in 6 languages simultaneously. The men around him are listening, rapt, drinking in every word. 2 old men near the window are arguing in rapid-fire Yiddish about something biblical. You catch words like Talmud and Rabbi Hillel, but can't follow the actual argument. And everywhere people are drinking not just tea, schnapps, beer when they can afford it. And gin. Gin is everywhere in New York in 195. Not just on the Bowery, not just in the worst neighborhoods. Everywhere. The poorest neighborhoods have gin mills on every corner. Storefronts with signs advertising gin 1 cent per glass. Or get drunk for a penny. Dead drunk for 2 pennies. Straw-free. The straw is to sleep on after you've drunk yourself unconscious. You can see the gin drinkers even here in Moskowitz's, which is relatively respectable. They're the ones with the glazed eyes and the shaking hands. The ones who've moved past cheerful into something darker. A woman at nearby table is slumped over, barely conscious, while her companions continue drinking around her. Nobody seems concerned. This happened every night. There's a print you saw once in a shop window. An artist named William Hogarth made it back in England in 1751. Gin Lane, it's called. Shows a London street full of gin drinkers in various states of ruin. A woman dropping her baby while she takes snuff. A man so thin he's practically a skeleton. Bodies everywhere. Buildings collapsing. It's meant to be a moral lesson about the evils of drink. But standing here in Moskowitz's watching the gin drinkers stare at nothing, you realize Hogarth wasn't exaggerating much. There's another print, too. Beer Street shows a prosperous neighborhood where everyone drinks ale instead of gin. The people are healthy. The buildings are solid. Commerce is thriving. The message is clear. Beer is wholesome and English. Gin is foreign and destructive. Except gin is everywhere in New York, too. The city consumes millions of gallons a year. The exact statistics you don't know, but you've heard numbers. Enough gin to fill the East River. Someone said once, the government keeps trying to regulate it. In 1855, New York passed a law trying to limit liquor licenses. The Irish rioted. The police backed down in 1895. They tried again with the Raines Law, which said you could only serve alcohol with meals in hotels. So, every saloon added a couple rooms upstairs and called itself a hotel. The law made prostitution worse because now saloons had bedrooms. You can't legislate away desperation. The social reality is this. People drink because their lives are unbearable. You work 12, 14, 16 hours a day in conditions that slowly kill you. Breathing coal, dust, or fabric, lint, or whatever poison your particular industry produces. Your back hurts. Your hands hurt. You're exhausted all the time. You live in a tenement with 8 other people in a room designed for 2. You can't afford heat in winter. You can't escape heat in summer. Your children get sick and die because the water is contaminated and you can't afford a doctor. So, you drink. A penny buys you a few hours where you don't feel the pain, where you forget that your life is grinding you down to nothing, where you can laugh and talk and feel human for a little while. And if you drink too much, if you lose your job because you're drunk too often, if your family starves because you spent the rent money on gin, well, that's the price of escape. You look down at your own glass of tea. Weak tea. Barely tea. Really, just hot water with some flavor. But it's not gin. You made a decision early on when you arrived in New York. You saw what gin did to people. Saw me. Nan, who arrived full of hope and ambition, who ended up sleeping in doorways, begging for pennies. You decided no, Jen. No matter how bad things get, no matter how tired you are or how much your life hurts, it's a daily decision. Some days it's easy, some days it's hard. Tonight it's easy. You've had a good week. Zulman gave you a commission. You negotiated good prices. You're learning the trade, but there will be bad weeks. Weeks where you can't make rent, where you get sick and can't work, where the desperation closes in and gin starts looking like the only escape. You hope you'll still say no. Then you hope. Mottle loses all his winnings and then some. By the time he's ready to leave, he's down maybe 15 cents. Bastards cheated, he mutters as you walk out into the night. Did they? Probably not, but it makes me feel better to think so. The street outside is dark. The gas lamps on the corners provide barely enough light to see by. You want a link boy? Mottle asks. His 3 blocks will be fine. Famous last words, probably. But you're not paying 3 cents for a link boy to walk you 3 blocks. You set off down Essex Street toward Orchard, walking quickly, keeping to the middle of the street, where you can see in all directions. The streets at night are a different city. During the day, the Lower East Side is chaotic but navigable, crowded but comprehensible. You know where you're going and how to get there. At night, everything changes. The darkness is absolute in places. Gas lamps are only on major corners, and they don't provide much light, just a circle of yellow glow that makes the shadows beyond seem even darker. The buildings loom over you, blocking what little moonlight might exist. And the people who come out at night are different from the daytime crowd. Not all of them. Most people out at night are just workers heading home late, or going to night shifts at factory. As legitimate people doing legitimate things. But some of them aren't. You can feel eyes watching from doorways. Hear footsteps that stop when you start. Start when you start. Walk faster. Mottle mutters. You do. Near the corner of Essex and Hester, a figure steps out of a doorway. Boys need light. I got a torch. 3 cents to Orchard Street. It's a link boy, maybe 12 years old, holding a torch made of rags wrapped around a stick soaked in kerosene. The torch casts wild shadows on the walls. We're fine, you say? You sure? It's dark tonight. Easy to get lost. Easy to run into trouble. The way he says trouble makes it clear he's not talking about getting lost. You look at Mottle. He looks at you. 2 cents. Mottle says 3. 2. The boy studies you both. Makes a calculation. Fine. 2. But you walk fast. I got other customers tonight. He sets off, torch held high, and you follow with the torchlight. The street becomes navigable again. You can see the cobblestones beneath your feet. The buildings on either side the way ahead. Other figures move in the darkness beyond the torch's reach. You can't see them clearly, but you can sense them. Shapes in doorways. Movement in alleys. You do this every night? Muttle asks the boy. Most nights. Good money, if you know the streets. Dangerous, though. The boy shrugs. Everything's dangerous. You learn which corners to avoid, which gangs run which blocks. Stay in the light. Keep moving. Don't carry anything worth stealing. He glances back at you both. There's footpads who'll cut you for $2. Press gangs who will knock you out and drag you onto a ship. Resurrection men who he stops. Never mind. What's a resurrection man? You ask, though you think you know. Body snatchers dig up fresh graves, sell the corpses to doctors. Sometimes, when bodies are scarce, he trails off. You walk a little faster. The boy leads you down Hester, then cuts Nay. Orth on Orchard. You're maybe half a block from 97 when you hear it. Footsteps behind you. More than one person moving fast. The link boy hears it, too. His pace quickens. Don't run, he mutters. Running makes them chase. But the footsteps are getting closer. 3 men emerge from an alley to your right. You can't see their faces clearly in the torchlight, but you can see enough. Working clothes, hard faces. One of them has something in his hand. A club, maybe. Wallet, one of them says in accented English. Irish, maybe, or Italian. We don't have wallets, Muttle says, his voice shaken slightly. Empty your pockets. This is it. This is the moment you've been warned about since you arrived. The moment when New York stops being the city of opportunity and becomes a city that eats you alive. You reach into your pocket, slowly. You've got maybe 10 cents on you. The rest of your money is hidden back at the apartment, but then light voices. A group of men emerging from a building ahead of you. Late-night workers, maybe, or people leaving a card game, or just random people, but they're there witnesses. The footpads melt back into the darkness, gone as quickly as they appeared. The link boy lets out a breath. Told you stay in the light. Keep moving. That happened often. You ask your heart hammering often enough. He leads you the rest of the way to 97 Orchard. You give him 3 cents instead of 2. Call it a tip for possibly saving your life. He nods, thanks, and disappears back into the darkness with his torch. Off to find another customer. You and Mottle stand there for a moment, breathing hard, adrenaline still pumping. Welcome to New York, Mottle says finally. Yeah, welcome to New York. You climb the 4 flights in total darkness, navigating by feel and memory. Inside the apartment, everyone is asleep. The Davidowitz family in their corner. Their grandmother snoring softly. Why? Our straw mattress waits. Muttle climbs in first, leaving you the outside edge where the bedbugs are worse. Thanks, Muttle. You lie down without undressing fully. It's too hot to bother, and besides, you'll be up again in a few hours anyway. Outside, New York continues its nighttime life. The gin mills will be open for hours, yet the all-night factories keep running. The ships in the harbor keep loading and unloading, and somewhere out there, footpads are prowling the dark streets. Link boys are lighting the way for strangers, and 500,000 people are trying to survive another night in the greatest city in the world. You close your eyes. Tomorrow is another day, another 5:45. Wake up, another round of pressing coats until your arms give out. Another set of errands and negotiations and streets to navigate. But that's tomorrow. Right now, in this moment, you're warm enough, fed enough, safe enough. You survived today. A close call with the footpads. A card game where you knew when to quit. A delicate dance of negotiation with suppliers and customers. You're learning how to exist in this city, how to navigate its dangers, how to find the small victories. A good price, a commission from your master, a moment of beauty looking at the Brooklyn Bridge. That's not nothing. The sounds of the city fade as sleep pulls you under. The last thing you hear is a train whistle somewhere in the distance. The elevated trains on 2nd and 3rd Avenues, carrying people through the night. People going to work, people going home, people going to places you'll never know about. All of you living in the same city, all of you part of the same vast machinery that keeps New York running. You think about the things you've seen these past 14 months. The Flatiron Building rising impossible into the sky, the Brooklyn Bridge spanning the river, the Eldridge Street Synagogue with its stay. Ned glass windows, one a maker's department store with its chandeliers and 75-cent lunches, and on the other side the tenement is packed with humanity. The sweatshops where people destroy their bodies for $1 a week, the gin mills, the footpads, the constant grinding poverty that kills slowly but surely. This city contains everything. Every kind of person, every kind of life, every kind of death. It grinds some people down to nothing and lifts others up to heights they never imagined. The difference between the two often comes down to luck or timing or simply being in the right place at the right moment. You've been lucky so far. A decent master, a real trade to learn, your health intact, your prospects reasonable. Not everyone can say the same. But tomorrow there will be more work, more coats to press, more fabric to measure, more buttons to sew, the endless dance of commerce that keeps the city alive. You'll wake before dawn and work until after dark and fall into bed exhausted. The same as today, the same as yesterday, the same as all the days, stretching out ahead. But tonight, you're just tired. Good night. Morning comes too soon. The shamas is knocking. The church bells are ringing. The city is waking up with the same noise and chaos as every morning. Your eyes open to darkness and the smell of 8 people sleeping in a room designed for 3. For a moment, maybe half a second, you forget where you are. Then it hits you. The smell, the heat, the sound of the David Davidovich children stirring welcome to another day in 1905 New York. Model's already up, splashing water on his face, looking annoyingly fresh for someone who almost got robbed last night. Good night, you ask? He grins, still alive. That's good enough. You pull on your clothes, splash water on your face from the basin. The water is brown again. Always brown. Down 4 flights out onto Orchard Stray. At west toward Lello, the routine passes in a blur. Zorman is at his cutting table when you arrive at 5:55. You're late, he says. You're not late. You never are, but you don't argue. The morning passes. You press lapels on 6 coats. You deliver a finished vest to a customer on Rivington Street. You pick up Fred from Epstein's shop, negotiating him down from 30 cents to 27, pocketing 3 cents commission. The same work, the same streets, the same endless cycle of commerce, but you're getting better at it, faster, more confident. The city that terrified you 14 months ago is becoming familiar. The streets you couldn't navigate are becoming home. You're learning. 3 weeks later, on a Thursday morning in September, Zulman wakes you earlier than usual. Not Zulman personally. He sends Mottel to 97 Orchard to get you. There's the execution today. Mottel says the tombs. Zulman says we should go see what happens to murderers. Your stomach drops. You've heard of executions. Everyone has. New York still hangs people publicly. Well, not publicly in the street anymore, but in the prison courtyard at the tombs, where anyone who wants can get a ticket to watch. I don't want to see that, you say. You don't have a choice. This man gave us the morning off. Said, it's educational. Educational. Right. The tombs, officially called the New York Halls of Justice and House of Detention, is on Center Street in Lower Manhattan. It opened in 1838, designed to look like an Egyptian mausoleum, which is why everyone calls it the Tombs. The building is massive, 4 stories tall, made from granite blocks that look like they'll stand forever. Inside those walls, people await trial or await execution. Today, someone is being executed. You walk with Mottel through the morning streets. The city is already awake. It's 6:30 and the pushcarts are out. The workers are heading to factories. But there's a differ. Anti-energy this morning. People are streaming south toward the tombs. Whole families, men, women, children, all heading to watch someone die. It's like a fair, Mel says. He's not wrong. Vendors are setting up near the tomb selling food and drinks. Pretzels for 2 cents, coffee for a nickel. One enterprising seller has printed programs with the condemned. Man's biography and crime. Life and death of Giuseppe Moretti, the Italian killer, the vendor shouts. Read about his terrible crimes. 1 penny Mottel buys one, unfolds it as you walk. Says here, this Moretti fellow killed his neighbor over a gambling debt. stabbed him 17 times. They caught him with blood on his clothes sitting in his apartment drinking wine. Did that really happen? Mel shrugs. Probably, or maybe not. But it sells programs. You can't get inside the courtyard. That requires tickets, and they're long gone, given to police officers and prison officials and people with connections. But you can gather with the crowd outside the walls, where you can hear what's happening even if you can't see it. Maybe 500 people are packed into the street outside the tombs. Maybe more. Men, women, children, rich and poor, everyone waiting for the same thing. A priest is visible on the wall. You can see his black robes, walking alongside someone you assume is Moretti. They're heading toward the gallows, which you can't see from here. The crowd goes quiet. For a moment, maybe 10 seconds, there's almost complete silence. 1,000 people holding their breath. Then, a thud, loud enough to hear from the street, the trapdoor dropping. The crowd exhales. Some people cheer. Some cross themselves. Some look sick. A woman near you starts crying. Maybe she knew Moretti. Maybe she just has a soft heart. Maybe she's thinking about her own life and how close any of us are to being on the other side of those walls. That's it. That's the way. Whole thing. A man walked into a courtyard. A rope was placed around his neck. A lever was pulled. He fell. His neck broke, and justice, according to the state of New York, was served. The crowd begins to disperse. The excitement is over. Time to go back to work, back to life, back to pretending we're civilized people who don't gather to watch executions. But then the gates open. Not the main gates, a smaller side gate, and men emerge carrying a wooden coffin, Moretti's body being removed for burial. The crowd surges forward. Everyone wants to see, touch, bear witness. The police form a line, keeping people back. The coffin is loaded onto a wagon. The wagon pulls away, heading toward Potter's Field on Hart Island, where they bury criminals and paupers and people nobody claims. Moretti will go into an unmarked grave with hundreds of others. No headstone, no memorial, just a patch of ground that everyone knows not to build on. Walking back to the Lower East Side, you and Mottle don't talk much. What is there to say? You just watched. Well, heard a man die legally with the full approval of the state, with hundreds of people gathered to witness it, and tomorrow everything will continue like it never happened. The city won't stop, the factories won't close, life will go on's man said. Its educational model says finally you know what he meant. You think you do. Means this is what happens if you break the rules. If you steal from your master, if you hurt someone, if you step outside the lines that society draws. Exactly. And the lesson is stay inside the lines. Work hard. Keep your head down. Don't make trouble. You walk in silence for another block. But Mottle says, what if the rules are designed to keep us poor and working and too tired to fight back? This is dangerous talk. Socialist talk. The kind of thing that gets you labeled a troublemaker. But ML says it Q. Where yet? Yetley, just between the two of you and you don't disagree. Back at the shop, Zulman is waiting. Did you see it? He asks. We heard it. Couldn't get inside. Hearing is enough. He looks at you both seriously. I sent you there for a reason. You need to understand what kind of city this is. New York will give you opportunities you never dreamed of back in the old country. But it will also crush you without a second thought if you step wrong. He goes back to his cutting table. Now get to work. Those coats won't make themselves. And just like that, it's over. The execution becomes another thing that happened. Another piece of New York that you've absorbed. You take your place at the pressing station. You heat the iron. You press lapels and collars and buttonholes. Your hands move automatically, while your mind is still outside the tombs. Still hearing that thud. Still thinking about a man who woke up this morning, knowing he'd be dead by noon. It gets easier, Mottle said once about something else. You're not sure if that's a comfort or a curse. The day passes, customers come and go. You press coat after coat. Your arms ache. Your back screams. But you keep working because what else are you going to do? At 7:30, Zellman closes the shop. You walk back to 97 Orchard in the fading light. Supper is thin soup with bread. The Devitt's children are loud. The grandmother complains about her joints. Normal life, like the execution, never happened. You lie down on your straw mattress next to Mottle. Outside, this city continues. It never stops. Even at midnight, even at 3 o'clock in the morning, there's always something happening. The great machine of New York grinding through the night. And you're part of it now, whether you want to be or not. 2 weeks after the execution, you need to escape. You can't explain it exactly. Just a feeling that if you don't get out of the Lower East Side, out of the tenements and the streets and the endless press of humanity, you're going to lose your mind. Motto suggests Sea Island. It costs money, he warns. 15 cents for the train, maybe another 20, 30 cents for food and rides. But it's worth it. You'll see. You've been saving small amounts. A penny here, 2 cents there. Commissions from good negotiations. You've got almost $1 hidden in your mattress. $1 might as well be a fortune. But Mottle is right. You need this Sunday morning. You've skipped the synagogue. God will forgive you, probably, or not. Either way, you're going to Coney Island. The train to Coney Island leaves from the Bowery. You buy a ticket, 15 cents, just like Mottle said, and board a car packed with families and couples, and young men like you all heading to the beach. The train is elevated, running on tracks above the street. And as it heads south through Brooklyn, you can see the city spread out below you. Tenements giving way to smaller houses, factories, warehouses, empty lots. And eventually, far in the distance, you can see water, the Atlantic Ocean. You've never seen the ocean before. Not really. The East River doesn't count. That's barely water, mostly sewage. But this is the actual ocean. The same ocean you crossed on a steamship 14 months ago, packed in steerage, with hundreds of other immigrants, seasick and scared and hopeful. The train arrives at Coney Island at 10:30 in the morning. You step off the train onto a platform overlooking the beach, and for a moment you just stand there staring. The ocean stretches to the horizon, blue-green water rolling in waves that crash onto a beach of sand. Actual sand, not cobblestones or mud or garbage. And the beach is packed with people. Thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands. All of New York seems to have come here to escape the city. People swimming in the water or trying to swim. Most people do know how to swim. They just wade in up to their waists, splashing and laughing. People lying on blankets on the sand. Children building castles. Vendors selling everything imaginable. Ice cream, hot dogs, lemonade, popcorn, and behind the beach stretching for blocks, the amusement parks. Coney Island in 1905 has three major parks. Steeplechase Park, Luna Park, and Dreamland. Steeplechase opened in 1897, built by George Tillou. Luna Park opened in 1903, covered in electric lights, 250,000 of them, that make the whole place glow at night. Dreamland opened in 1904, even bigger than Luna, with a tower that's supposed to be 375 feet tall. All three parks are packed with rides and attractions and spectacles designed to separate working people from their pennies. And it works. You pay 10 cents to enter Luna Park. Inside, it's like stepping into another world. The main promenade is lined with towers and minarets and domes all painted in bright colors. The architecture is insane. Part Middle Eastern, part fantasy. Part fever dream. Nothing matches. Nothing makes sense. And it's glorious. Everywhere you look, there's something designed to amaze you. A ray called A Trip to the Moon, where you board a spaceship. A fake spaceship, obviously, and experience what it would be like to fly to the moon. The spaceship rocks and tilts while painted scenery moves past the windows. It costs $5. You don't ride it. Too expensive. But you watch other people emerge, laughing and dizzy. A building full of mirrors that distort your reflection. You look fat, then thin, then stretched, then compressed. Children stand in front of them, laughing at themselves. You spend 5 minutes there, just watching. It's free. A ride called the Dragon's Gorge, where you board a boat and float through a dark tunnel filled with mechanical dragons that roar and breathe steam. 5 cents to ride. You skip it. There's a shoe with diving horses. Actual horses that run down a ramp and dive into a pool of water. 10 cents to watch. You skip it. There's a building called Fight in the Flames, where they stage a fake fire and fake firefighters rescue fake victims. Admission is 5 cents. You skip it. Everything costs money. Every spectacle, every ride, every moment of joy. But just walking through Luna Park, seeing the lights and the crowds, and the sheer overwhelming spectacle of it all, that's free. By noon, you're hungry. A hot dog costs 5 cents. You buy one from the vendor near the beach. The hot dog is a sausage in a bun with mustard. That's it. Nothing fancy, but it's hot and salty and delicious. You eat it while walking on the beach, feeling sand between your toes for the first time in your life. The ocean is right there, massive and powerful and terrifying. You weigh in up to your knees. The water is cold and salty. Waves push against your legs, trying to knock you over. You understand suddenly why people drown. The ocean is strong. It doesn't care about you. It will pull you under and keep going, like you never existed. But right now, standing need in the Atlantic Ocean with the sun on your face, and a hot dog in your stomach, and the noise of thousands of people enjoying themselves. Right now, you're alive, completely, fully alive, in a way you haven't felt since you arrived in New York. The city is still there. Tenements, the sweatshops, the poverty, the grinding daily reality of survival. All of that is still waiting for you, but not right now. Right now, you're at Coney Island. And for the next few hours, you're free. You spend the afternoon wandering, watching people, seeing the sights that don't cost money. There's a boardwalk built over the water where couples walk arm in arm. You walk it alone, watching the ocean stretch to the horizon. There's a carousel, one of the old wooden Nez, with hand-carved horses. 5 cents to ride. You watch children scream with joy as it spins. There's a building advertising the infant incubator exhibit where premature babies are kept alive in new medical machines and put on display for the public. 10 cents admission. You don't go in. Something about it feels wrong, even if it's supposedly educational and the babies are genuinely being helped. By 4 o'clock, you've spent 35 cents total. 15 for the train, 10 for Luna Park admission, 5 for the hot dog, 5 for an ice cream cone you bought. Because you couldn't resist, you've got maybe 60 cents left in your pocket. Enough for the train back. Enough for a meal tomorrow. You should leave now. Get back to the Lower East Side before dark. But Model finds you near the beach. Stay until sunset. He says, Luna Park at night. You have to see it. As the sun goes down, the electric lights come on. 250,000 electric bulbs, all illuminating at once, turning Luna Park into a city of light. You've never seen anything like it. The buildings glow, the towers shine. The whole park becomes a beacon visible for miles. This is what electricity can do. This is the future. Back in the Lower East Side, maybe 1 building in 10 has electric lights. Most people still use gas lamps or candles. Electricity is expensive, rare, a luxury. But here at Luna Park, they waste electricity on decoration, on spectacle, on making people say, oh and and spend more money. And it works. You stand there for 20 minutes just looking at the lights, thinking about what it means that humanity can do this, can turn night into day, can create beauty out of nothing but electricity and clever engineering. Told you. Mottel says worth it. Yeah, worth it. The train back to Manhattan is packed with tired, happy people. Children asleep on their parents' laps, couples holding hands, working men and women who spent their $1. You're off at the beach, pretending for a few hours that life is more than just survival. You stare out the window as the train carries you north through Brooklyn, back toward the Lower East Side. The tenements come back into view, the factories, the familiar landscape of poverty and struggle. Tomorrow, you'll wake at 5:45. You'll press coats until your arms give out. You'll navigate the chaos of the streets. You'll eat cheap food and sleep on a straw mattress and do it all again the next day. But tonight, you went to Coney Island. You saw the ocean. You ate a hot dog. You watched Luna Park light up like a dream. That has to count for something. That has to be worth something. You close your eyes as the train rattles north through the darkness. Tomorrow will come soon enough. But tonight, you're just tired in a good way. Tired from walking in the sun. Tired from seeing beautiful things. That's enough. After Coney Island, something shifts. not dramatically. Not in any way you could point to and say there. That's when it changed. But something is different now. The city feels less like a monster trying to swallow you and more like a place where you might actually belong. The weeks turn into months. The months start to blur together. September becomes October. The heat breaks. The air gets cooler. The smell improves slightly. Or maybe you just get used to it. October becomes November. The first frost comes. You wake up one morning, and the water in the basin has a skin of ice on top. November becomes December. Snow falls. Not beautiful snow like you remember from Ballistock. Dirty snow that turns to slush, mixed with horseshit and garbage within hours. But still snow, a reminder that seasons exist. That time is passing. You learn the rhythms of the shop so deeply they become part of you. The morning opening at 6 o'clock, the midday lull around 2, the afternoon rush from 4 to 6, the eve. Cleaning. You know which suppliers are honest and which ones inflate prices. You know which customers will pay full price and which ones will haggle until you're both exhausted. You know the weight of good wool versus cheap wool just by touch. The difference between quality thread and garbage thread. The slight variations in button sizes that matter to the finished garment. Zulman watches you less now. He trusts you with deliveries uptown. He sends you on errands that require judgment, not just following instructions. Last month, he asked your opinion on a new supplier's fabric samples. He listened to what you said. That felt like something. Winter is brutal in the tenements. The cold seeps through the walls. The windows frost over. The cold stove in the apartment barely heats the room. You huddle close to it in the mornings. Everyone competing for warmth, people die in winter. The old, the sick, children who catch pneumonia or influenza or tuberculosis. The Davidoid's grandmother dies in January. She goes to sleep one night and doesn't wake up. It's sad, but also expected. She was old. She'd been coughing for months. The family sits Shiva for a week. You give them space, sleeping at the shop a few nights because the apartment is too full of grief. Life goes on. Mottel finishes his apprenticeship in February. 3 years done. His time complete. He's a skilled worker now, free to work wherever he wants. Free in ways you won't be for another 18 months. He takes a position at a larger shop on Broome Street. Better pay, better prospects, more workers, which means more opportunity to learn from different people. You should come too when your time is up. He says, Zulman's good, but he's small time. You want to make real money, you need to work in a bigger shop. Maybe. Or maybe you stay with Zulman. There's something to be said for loyalty. For knowing your master is not a bastard. You'll decide when the time comes. Zulman hires a new apprentice to replace Mottel, a kid from Odessa named Yakov. 16 years old, skinny, scared of everything. He reminds you of yourself 14 months ago. It gets easier. You tell him one night when he's lying awake in the dark too, overwhelmed to sleep. Give it time. You'll learn the streets. You'll learn the trade. It starts to feel like home. He doesn't believe you. You can hear it in his silence, but he will eventually. Spring comes, the ice melts, the mud returns, the smell gets worse. Winter at least had the decency to freeze the garbage and sewage, but spring also brings light. Longer days, warmth, the possibility that life might be more than just surviving winter. Your second year in New York, complete. Zulman marks the occasion by raising your pay. Not much, 30 cents more per week, but it's significant. It means you're worth more to him now than you were a year ago. It means you're getting good at this. You start noticing things you never noticed before. The way Z-Man arranges the shop to maximize light. The way he positions expensive fabrics where customers will see them first. The way he greets regular customers by name, asks about their families, makes them feel important. It's not just sewing, it's theater performance, making people want to give you money. You're learning that too. Last week, a woman came in looking for a simple coat, something cheap for everyday wear. You showed her the simple coat, something cheap for everyday wear. You showed her the simple coat, then casually you showed her something slightly better. Just a touch more style, better wool, better construction. Not much more expensive, you said. But it'll last twice as long. and people will notice. You'll feel proud wearing it. She bought the better coat and a scarf to match and buttons to replace the ones on her husband's vest. Zulman saw the whole thing. Didn't say anything at the time, but he nodded at you across the shop. Just a small nod. You're learning. Your own shop seems impossibly far away. You're not even a journeyman yet. You're still an apprentice. Still learning. Still years away from having the skills and capital and connections to open your own place. But it's possible now. Not just a dream, an actual possibility. You could do what Zaman did. Start small, build slowly, find good suppliers, treat your workers decently, make a name for yourself. The city that seemed overwhelming and terrifying when you arrived is becoming comprehensible. The chaos is still there, but you can navigate it now. You know which streets to avoid at night. You know how to negotiate with suppliers. You know how to read customers. You know how to read customers. You know how to survive. And survival in 1905, New York is no small achievement. On quiet evenings when the shop is closed and the work is done, you sometimes sit by the window in the back room and watch the street go dark. The lamplighters make their rounds, though their efforts barely push back the night. Candles appear in windows up and down Lello Street. The sounds of the day fade into the sounds of evening. Tavern noise and distant music and the occasional shout of a watchman calling the hour. Mrs. and the occasional shout of a watchman calling the hour. Mrs. Katz serves supper. The same simple food as always. Chicken soup if you're lucky. Potato soup if you're not. Bread that's slightly stale by evening but still edible. She asks about your day sometimes in her quiet way. Listens to your answers. Offers small pieces of advice that turn out to be more useful than you expected. The customers don't just buy fabric. She told you once they buy how you make them feel. Remember that. You remember it? After supper, there's time to yourself. An hour, maybe two, before exhaustion takes over. You could go out to Moskowitz or the Café Royal, or one of the other places where young workers gather. But often lately, you stay and read a newspaper if you can borrow one. Think about the day. Plan for tomorrow. New York never fully sleeps. There's always something moving, someone stirring, some business being conducted in the shadows. But it gets quieter. The mad energy of daylight hours settles into something more manageable, something almost peaceful. You think about the people you've met. Zulman, who could have been a bastard, but chose to be decent. Mrs. Katz, who feeds you without complaint. Mottel, who taught you how to navigate the city. Yakov, the new kid who reminds you how far you've come. Mr. Morrison uptown with his expensive office. Mr. Morrison uptown with his expensive office. Mr. Lefkowitz in Brooklyn with his quality buttons. The link boy who saved you from footpads. All of them living their lives in the same city. All of them part of the same vast machinery that keeps New York running. You think about the things you've seen. The Flatiron Building reaching impossible heights. The Brooklyn Bridge spanning the river. Wakers with its chandeliers and carpeted floors. Luna Park glowing with 250,000 electric bulbs. The execution at the Tombs. The ocean at Coney Island. This city contains everything. Every kind of person, every kind of life, every kind of death. It grinds some people down to nothing and lifts others up to impossible heights. The difference between the two often comes down to luck or timing, or simply refusing to give up. You've been lucky so far, but you've also worked hard, learned fast, made good choices. That counts for something. Tomorrow there will be more customers, more coats to press, more fabric to measure, more negotiations to win or lose. The endless dance of commerce that keeps the city alive. You'll wake before dawn, and work until after dark, and fall into bed, exhausted. The same as today, the same as yesterday, the same as all the days, stretching out ahead. But tonight, you're just tired. Good night. The attic room at 97 Orchard is cold tonight. March cold. The kind that seeps through the walls and he settles in your bones. Yakov is already asleep, cold on his side of the mattress, breathing slow and steady. The sounds of the city drift out through the floorboards. A cart passing in the street below. Someone laughing in a nearby apartment. The distant bark of a dog. You pull the thin blanket up to your chin and stare at the ceiling. It's strange. The person you're becoming, not the boy from Balatok anymore. Not quite a New Yorker yet. Something in between, something still taking shape. Your mother would barely recognize you. The way you talk now, mixing Yiddish and English and street slang into something that's its own language. The way you move through crowds without flinching. The way you can look at fabric and know its quality instantly. Its origin within minutes. Its proper price without thinking. She'd be proud. Probably your father too, though he'd never say it. They sent you here with nothing but hope and a cousin's address that turned out to be useless. And so far, the hope is paying off. You're learning a trade. You're making your way. You're surviving. In a city that eats so many people alive. Surviving is no small thing. A candle on the windowsill gutters and dies. Darkness fills the room. Soft and complete. Just the faint glow of moonlight through the tiny window and the sounds of New York settling into night. Your eyes are heavy. A day's work has caught up with you. Your arms ache pleasantly from pressing coats. Your back is sore in that good way. That means you worked hard. Your mind is finally quiet. The endless chatter of thoughts fading into something like peace. You think about the years ahead, the challenges you can't yet imagine, the opportunities that might or might not come. The person you'll be at 25, at 30, at 40? Will you still be here on Lello Street running your own shop? Will you have found something else? Some other path through this maze of a city? Will you even still be alive? Or will New York have claimed you the way it claims so many? You can't know. Nobody can. The future is as dark as the room around you, as unknowable as tomorrow's weather or next year's fashions. But that's all right. You've learned something these past 16 months. Something they don't teach in the shop. Something Zman never put into words. You've learned that you can handle things. That the city that seemed so terrifying when you arrived is actually just a place, a complicated place, a dangerous place. A place that will test you in ways you never expected. But still, just a place full of people trying to get through their days. Same as you. The boy who stepped off that train from Bialystok. The one who got lost on every corner and flinched at every noise. He's still in there somewhere. You can still feel him sometimes when something unexpected happens, but he's not in charge anymore. The person in charge is someone new. Someone who knows how to press a perfect lapel. How to negotiate with suppliers. How to find his way home in the dark. Someone who belongs here. You're warm enough. Fed enough. Safe enough. You have a roof over your head and work that matters, and people who are counting on you to show up tomorrow and do it all again. That's more than a lot of people have. That's enough. The sounds of the city grow fainter. Or maybe you're just listening less. The boundary between waking and sleeping starts to blur the way it does when you're truly exhausted. When your body has decided that consciousness is no longer required. Somewhere out there, New York continues. The night watchmen walk their rounds. The all-night factories keep running. The ships in the harbor keep loading cargo. The gin shop serve their desperate customers. The prostitutes work their corners. The criminals plan their crimes. And the merchants sleep in their brownstones, dreaming of profits. And the workers sleep in their tenements, dreaming of something better. And you, Herschel Steinberg, apprentice presser, boy from Bialystok, dreamer of dreams you can't yet name. You sink into the darkness. Tomorrow will come soon enough. The shamus will knock. The bells will ring. The city will wake with its usual violence. You'll press coats until your arms give out. You'll navigate the chaos. You'll survive another day. But for now, there's just the softness of sleep reaching up to claim you. The quiet of the attic room. The steady breathing of the boy beside you. The distant heartbeat of a city that never quite stops. You close your eyes. The last thing you hear is a church bell somewhere far away, marking an hour you're too tired to count. 3 more hours until the shamus knocks. 3 more hours of rest before it all starts again. Centuries will pass. The New York, you know, will change beyond recognition. The tenements will be torn down or renovated or turned into museums. The sweatshops will be regulated. The child labor will end. The child labor will end. The cholera and typhoid will be conquered. The elevated trains will come down. The subways will be built. The automobiles will replace the horses. The electric lights will replace the gas lamps. The Flatiron building will seem quaint. The Brooklyn Bridge will be joined by dozens of others. The city will grow and grow and grow until it swallows Brooklyn and Queens and the Bronx and become something unimaginable to anyone in 1905. But people will still live here, still work here, still dream here, still fall asleep at night with the sounds of the city in their ears, wondering what tomorrow will bring. Some things don't change. The human heart doesn't change. The need to work, the need to survive, the need to hope for something better, that doesn't change. So let it come. Let sleep take you the way it took Herschel in his attic room on Orchard Street in March of 1905. Let the world fade. Let the noise quiet. Let your thoughts slow and soften and finally stop. You've earned this rest. You've survived another day in the greatest, most brutal, most beautiful city in the world. Take it. Close your eyes and dream of whatever dreams may come. Good night.